Welcome to a new video by Oceanleaf, and today we got a real interesting topic, which is Windows 365, your cloud PC. And for that, I brought a very special guest, a true legend when it comes to Windows 365 in the scene, which is Morten. Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Nicholas, and I'm so excited to be here. It's always fun to talking about Windows 365. So my name is Morten Pedholt, and I'm a cloud architect at a Pinto that is based off Denmark. I'm a Windows 365 MVP, and yeah, loving Windows 365. Has done Azure Virtual Desktop and has been working for an IT consultant for 10 years plus now. Um, yeah, and I also just wrote a book about Windows 365 that I'm also excited to share here today. So
Perfect. Yeah, I own that book and it's very good. So definitely a recommendation. Yeah, so coming to the topic, your cloud PC. So what is Windows 365? It's basically your Windows desktop experience brought to you by the cloud. And it has native integration to Microsoft Intune, so the device management we all love, and also Windows, so the operating system. It's very easy to use and all powered in the backend by Azure Virtual Desktop and the Microsoft infrastructure. Really to highlight here, there are very good community resources, for example, from the Windows 365 community, where Morten is part of, or also I started a blog series on my blog, oceanleaf.ch. So yeah, there are good resources, and let's get started.
yeah, so some of the key benefits that you can get from Windows 365 is actually that you can get the full Windows desktop experience to any device that you would like to use. Now, this is really powerful because devices that users normally use are Windows-based devices, but there are actually a lot of users that like to use non-Windows-based devices for several reasons. This could be salesmen doing a meeting, traveling to different customers, but he still need that uh, Windows experience on his iPad that he loves to run on. And with Windows 365, he can really get that with his cloud PC. Now, when it comes to IT administration, this is where the product really shines, if you ask me. So if you're used to manage virtual desktop environments, such as traditional RDS or even Azure Virtual Desktop, even Azure Virtual Desktop is very easy to manage compared to traditional VDI, but it still requires some specific skill set. Windows 365 is directly built into Microsoft Intune, and because it is that, it makes it really simple to get started with. I would say maybe around 85, maybe 90% of the things that you're configuring is the same as you do on your physical device. So if you're already using Microsoft Intune, this is just really, really easy to get started with. And Windows 365 really just plays into all of the ecosystem of Microsoft, such as Microsoft Defender. It's just, you know, really easy to get started. It's almost like a plug and play solution. And what I hear from my customers that this is one of the key things they're choosing Windows 365 because of the simple management there is. And the way that you're able to provision a cloud PC for your end user is basically done with two steps. So the first step is that you assign the license to the user, and the second step is that you are creating a provisioning policy. For those who doesn't know, a provisioning policy is just a set of configuration that the cloud PC will be. So that is such as the operating system, but what virtual network should the cloud PC be created on? Should it be hybrid join or entry joined only? So there are some small section of choices that you have to make. Once you have made those choices, the cloud PC will be provisioned automatically. Once the provisioning has been done of the cloud PC, the end user will be able to log into it. And then you're all set. I would say it takes around 25, 30 minutes, and then you have the cloud PC up and running. And that is actually pretty huge. I have a customer that takes days before they're able to get a new employee up and running, or even external consultants. So this is really a time saver. And of course, if you're doing hybrid environments, it might take a little longer time because all of this synchronization that has to go back and forth, but overall, it's very nice and simple. So one of the key things in this, like any other virtual environment, is how are the user connected to their PC? There are several ways that the user can connect to it, but I would definitely recommend using the Windows 365 app. That is a built-in experience, I would say, in Windows, where the end user will get a familiar experience. It's very easy. There are some good choices in terms of multi-monitor support, and also some optimized experience with Teams and web browsing videos. But there are several other ways that the end user can connect, and that is by using the remote desktop client. Uh, that is actually the client that you're also using for Azure Virtual Desktop, if you're familiar with that. But the cool thing is that you're able to connect from any device within the supported OS, of course. So you have Windows, Mac OS, iOS, Android. You also have some Linux-based systems like Intune that you can use. Um, and one of the nice things that just came around is the feature with Windows 365 Switch and Boot. So these features are built in directly into Windows 11 and really empowers the way that the end user are interacting with the cloud PC itself. I'm pretty sure we'll come back to that later. Um, the third thing is that if you have a supported browser, and that is a HTML5 browser, you're also able to connect to the cloud PC that way. So if you're on a device that doesn't have access to any of the application that I just mentioned, you can also do that from browser and get a really, really good experience. And of course, the most important thing, how do the end user authenticate? They are able to authenticate with their Microsoft Enter ID account to have a streamlined process, and you can also top it up with some conditional access, multi-factor authentication, FIDO2 authentication if you like. So there are good possibilities there. Now, I have talked a bit about Azure Virtual Desktop now, and Windows 365 actually uses a lot of Azure Virtual Desktop back at the infrastructure. But there are some differences, and some people are confused about this. With Windows 365, you have a software as a service solution. And this means that things are tied into a box that you have very limited choices of. But the choices that you have are very, very good and very, I would say, precise. Where with Azure Virtual Desktop, you have a lot of options. You have a lot of different SKUs that you're not able to choose from Windows 365. Um, and these two solutions can actually work pretty good together. It just depends on your use case. So you don't have to like decommission your Azure Virtual Desktop environment to use Windows 365. You just have to look at your use case saying, okay, we have this user persona here, and what is our end goal with this, and what solution that does fit best into this. Azure Virtual Desktop, you get a much more flexible solution, but it also comes with a different cost and different management cost and a different end user experience. So you have to think about that. So about the cost, there are some different licenses that you can acquire. You have the Windows 365 Enterprise and the Frontline. Now, the Frontline is I would say, still a new license type that will spin up free cloud PCs for you with one license. Now, this sounds very beneficial, but there is, of course, a hatch here. So this is this was basically created for shift workers. So if you have employees working different time zones in the world, it would be beneficial because the end users will not always be online. And when they log off to go home from their work, another user from a different time zone were able to get on their cloud PC. And that way you could have this shared license scenario where with the Windows 365, you have your full dedicated cloud PC that is always on, that you can connect to whenever you want, and you don't share a license with everyone. So think of it as Windows 365 Enterprise is your fully dedicated cloud PC, whereas Windows 365 Frontline is more of a shared solution, but you still have your own cloud PC, but you're not able to use it at the same time as the other two with that license. When it comes to use cases, there are some different kinds, and we just got a couple here. So I just talked about the frontline workers with the shift workers, but you're also able to give your external consultant a cloud PC really fast and easy. And the good thing about this is when you are having external consultant, normally you will have to ship a PC to them, or they will get into the office to get the PC when they stop their work. It's not uncommon that external consultants maybe only work for half a year at a company and then have to move on, or maybe their coworker have to come in and take over their work. So you get all that PC management away, and you're also able to secure all the data that the external consultants are working on within that cloud PC. You can actually make specific rule that they are not allowed to export anything or copy anything to any USB drives. It's very handy. So you get a really good control over your what can I say, the user, how they are behaving or working on the cloud PC. Let me say it that way. You're also able to ramp up your acquisitions. So if you are acquisitions many companies, you might know that sometimes the timeline is quite tight, and you have to deliver end user desktop experience for maybe thousands of users, maybe hundreds of users, right? And with Windows 365, it's really easy to get them started, get them up and running with existing equipment that they already have, and don't have to switch out all their physical devices for this. So it's really nice. And if we take a look at the IT administration solutions here, we can talk a bit about privileged access workstation. So when you're a IT administrator, you should definitely protect your IT credential and how you're interacting with your IT system. And with Windows 365, you can actually create like a secure IT shell, as I call it, where you can do specific, I would say, granular authentication string, specifically on those POV cloud PCs. And that way you can secure them even more.
So where Windows 365 really shines and also what I love is of course the integration to Microsoft Intune. And to talk a little bit about it, it's basically you have a single pane of glass experience, meaning that you can configure Windows 365 and cloud PCs from the same portal. So there's a aspect or a blade here to provision Windows 365 PCs. And as you can see, as Morten talked about, here you can configure provisioning policies, custom images, choose the network connection, also user settings. And the great thing is, once a cloud PC gets provisioned, it is treated as a normal Intune device, as a physical device, meaning that you can apply configuration policies, compliance, deploy apps, and do all those great things which we know from Intune. And that makes the whole thing really powerful. So, meaning already what we have as of now in Intune is a cross platform management solution. So, regardless of Windows, Android, macOS, Intune supports all. But with Windows 365, we even can manage virtual devices. So think about that. I love it. So about the Windows integration, we have like the Windows 365 switch functionality at here the left hand side. This is basically from the taskbar where you have like multiple desktops available, and then you have an extra pane to switch directly to your cloud PC, meaning that you can switch from your physical hardware, so for example from your notebook, directly to your cloud PC for any of the use cases we mentioned from before, and that works just out of the box from Windows. The second thing is Windows 365 boot. Now this is even more powerful because everything you essentially need is also a piece of hardware, but within the boot of the hardware, it will boot into a specific OS. So it's like a shell which presents you a login mask, so the usual Windows log screen, and you can enter your credentials there. And in the background, what's then made is a connection to your cloud PC, meaning that you authenticate like on the device itself, but then you get booted to your cloud instance and your PC. And that's also a really cool use case that you can also configure natively via Intune. So these are like the top features, which I also love.
Yeah, and when you want to get started with Windows 365, and in theory with any other product that you're going to implement, you should always start looking at the technical designs and the architecture options that you have and how it does fit into your scenarios. And with Windows 365, you're basically taking a overview look of the topics that we have here on the slide. So we're taking a look at the provisioning, how should the license work? I mean, what kind of license should you use for your users? In what regions should you deploy your cloud PC? What network should be used? Do you need to maybe hyper AD join, or sorry, not AD join, intro join your devices? Um, and what kind of images would you like to provision to your end users? So these are like the first initial steps that you like need to consider and take a decision about. Then we come into like something client connectivity, and we just went over through the different ways that the clients are able to connect. But there are some network in between that you have to be in control of. And how are you able to give the end user the best possible experience with, for example, RDP short path that is utilizing UDP instead of TCP, making a huge difference. So definitely make sure to take that one out. And then also, as we talked about many times now, the Intune management is really, really simple. As I said before, I would say around 85-90% the same as when you are managing your physical devices. And we have these 10-15% where it's really Cloud PC specific management. And there are some couple of things that you should know how to manage or what the specific Cloud PC action does before you head into a full production. There are many different ways to get an overview of all of these and how to get started. There are many good Microsoft MVPs of just people in general that are sharing stuff in the community. Also, Microsoft Docs is a really good place to start. But as I said in the start, I'm really excited about Windows 365 and been a great fan from the start. And with Christian and Deep, we managed to write a book about this. So we went through the whole process from start to beginning, from the initial thoughts to the very end, where you will configure all of the settings. So we actually looking at this book here as a ultimate guide to get you started and to get you to your end goal um, with tips and tricks from experienced people. And this book is available now, and you'll be able to get this book on Amazon with this link here, aka.ms/master in Windows 365. And I hope that you will enjoy it.
Yeah, I will also put that link down in the description. As said, I own that book. I can clearly recommend it. So great resources as you have here. Definitely also check out the Windows 365 community and also my blog series. Everything is linked. And we really hope that you can profit from like this short intro to Windows 365. Personally, I got really hooked up by this topic on Workplace Ninja Summit in Switzerland this year. But I know the topic was around since like 2 years or so, and I'm now getting more attention on it because I really see real world use cases, and the technology is great. I love the community, so I'm really looking forward to it. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Goodbye.